Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Michael Razil of Our Athletes. Michael, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here, buddy. Thank you.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I wanted to read a little bit more about Michael so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Michael is the founder of Our Athletes, where he helps Olympic athletes and hopefuls find sponsorship and endorsement opportunities. He has started the Our Athletes podcast, where he speaks with Olympians on their story and path to the games, as well for the love of sports, where he speaks with people in the sports world about what they do, why they love it, and the mindset they employ on a daily basis to make it to the top. Michael, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
I cannot wait.
Awesome. Let's do it. So to kick everything off, I wanted to kind of rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on what got you started. Could you take us through your CEO story? We'll let you get started with all the awesome things you're doing.
Yeah, so a couple years ago, the 2018 Olympics were on. I was watching the games, doing some work in front of my computer, and I was rooting for all the people in red, white, and blue. And then I was like, wait a second, I know nothing about these people. And, the least I could do, they put in all this time, effort, energy, money, blood, sweat, tears. The least I could do is at least know their names, or at least I'll know something about their stories, right? So I did a couple Google searches, and then started falling down a rabbit hole. Quickly found that about 99% of our Olympic athletes make very little money. Literally about 80% live below the poverty line when it comes to annual income. And I thought, hey, I love sports. I want to help athletes. I want to work with them directly. What can I do to help? So I got connected with a few people. One big mentor and very important person to me is David Meltzer. Check him out on the internet. If you haven't, if you're a part of this community, I'm sure you've heard of him, but just in case, go double check on him. And, he helped me with some ideas on how to put the business together, what to do. And now for the last 2+ years, I've been able to help Olympians on, what they do and how they can make a couple extra bucks. I'm not here to make them millions of dollars yet. But, if I can make them year-changing money, I like to think about it, put $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in someone's pocket, it's going to significantly change who they are and what they do for that year, in my opinion, and in theirs, after speaking with some of them. And it's been a wild ride, but I've enjoyed every second of it since.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And as a sports junkie and somebody who always is wondering about that too, I think especially with Olympic athletes, as you talked about, from what kind of sparked you with it, sometimes you see every, 2-4 years, however it might be, you think that they just started training maybe that day. But I remember taking a look at what Michael Phelps ate on a regular everyday basis, how his workouts are, they consistently put in the time to be that excellent athlete. So, why not give them the opportunities to kind of, get some visibility, some opportunities from that our hard work and sacrifice they're putting in.
100%, man. It is. It's pretty ridiculous the amount of money that they make, considering what they do for our country. As you said, every 4 years. But unfortunate, they get their 15 days, 20 days of fame, and then they many of them, unfortunately, go back to being, for lack of a better term, close to irrelevant. But it's not like they stopped. They're still trying for the next time. And it's like the Olympics are the only competition they go to. There are yearly, there are monthly, there are weekly in certain situations, competitions that they're going to, competing at the highest level. There's just not the media hype around it. So when there's no media, there's no eyeballs. When there's no eyeballs, there's no money. So it's disappointing, but there are some that I've been able to help and will continue to help, and others that I hope to help along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we saw too the women's soccer team, and that was definitely at the forefront about equal pay and things like that. So I think I appreciate you for providing opportunities for these Olympic athletes that are stellar at what they do to be able to get those stellar opportunities as well. So I know you touched on it a little bit. Can you take us through exactly how that process works? How exactly do you serve these athletes that are doing phenomenal things? And what exactly do you do to kind of help provide those opportunities that they get?
Yeah, so I've built a relationship through the Our Athlete podcast, and now with through the Love of Sports, or For the Love of Sports podcast, I've been able to build relationships with athletes themselves. Obviously, I've also been able to build relationships with industry experts, industry veterans, just sports business executives, and everybody knows somebody, right? So that's always nice, and being able to go through that through the podcast and meeting all these people, I've then been able to amass a pretty big Rolodex for everybody out there that doesn't remember what that word is. It's just a list of people, a bunch of names, some numbers, and people that I've been able to build a relationship with. So through that, I've been able to build a relationship with probably around 150 Olympic athletes at this point, which then means I'm one phone call away from just about everybody outside of that top tier of athletes. So what I do is I speak with brands, I speak with sports industry executives, I speak with people that are just looking to work with athletes whether they know it or not, and then understand their wants, their needs, what they're trying to get out of a deal. And then I can go back to my list of athletes and say, hey, I can have 5 athletes for you at a specific price point that is much lower than if you wanted to work with one NBA athlete, even if he's seventh, eighth man off the bench. We can do it for cheaper. We can give you more stories to connect to. We can give you a bigger demographic to connect to, a more specific demographic to connect to. And then from there, we're really just able to aggregate the talent. So if the athletes are interested in it, we're then able to put those deals together, whatever those brands are looking for. We at our biggest and try and fulfill them at the best possible and above expectation. So obviously we want them to come back and then be able to really just run from there, just continue to build relationships and learn new ways, because I do believe these athlete stories, there's nothing like it. There's no one else like them and what they do, again, on the national level every couple of years, yes, but really just on a daily basis. They're still grinding, they're still putting in their discipline, they're still putting in their hard work. So it's not like they just vanish. They still have audiences, they still have people that connect with them within each of their respective sports, within their demographics, their hometowns, their home states. So their audiences are still very big, which I think is the important part in understanding that aspect of it. So it's really just getting brands to understand the opportunity and how much more affordable it is to use 5 Olympic athletes versus one NBA athlete, or not to pick on the NBA or MLB or NFL athlete that may have at first glance a big audience, but once you aggregate the 5 or 6 of these athletes together, it's going to be bigger and it's going to resonate more, which I think is the most important part.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, what I hear, like, obviously the term influencer has been used a lot, and a lot of people know they could be pro athletes, the NBA athletes, NFL, whatever that might be these influencers. But I think that's what's coming or emerging even more and more with the sophistication of the internet, is those micro influencers, those people that are influencers, maybe like you said, in their hometown, or maybe specifically for the type of sport that they do, and having the opportunity to not just, reach a broad base of people, reach a really focused demographic that you spoke to, is really something phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun and getting able to work with these athletes. Obviously, the last couple months has been a little weird with everything that's going on around the world, but back into it now that sports are starting back up. As of recording, we're starting to see a lot of these things start to happen. So very excited to just get back at it, see what we can do, and see how we can help.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you now for what I call your secret sauce. And this could be for you personally, or your podcast and your organizations, but what do you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique?
That's a great question. First, I'm going to start with everybody not watching. It's my mustache, of course. I mean, I think that, no, I'm kidding, of course. It's really just, the passion that comes with it. There's a lot of things, as I said, I brought up David Meltzer before. And again, anybody out in the community that does not follow him already, he's been a huge, huge influence. It's really been the mindset, right? I never ever say I have to do anything, because I get to do it. I wake up every day extremely grateful. I've meditated, I think, something like 750 days in a row at some point, and I do my 30 push-ups or whatever that number ends up being for the day. I do my, so it's the routine that I build into all these days that, while some people say, yes, I meditate on a daily basis, they might miss a Sunday or they might miss a Tuesday. I've sincerely not missed a single day in almost, if not more than 2 years at this point. And I think that is something that does set me apart, and not just the meditation, but it's just the dedication, the discipline to do something every single day. Everyone says it's really easy, until you get to day like 6 and you're like, I don't really feel like doing my push-ups today. I've felt that, and sometimes it is 2 o'clock in the morning where I'm just like, shoot, I forgot to do them today. Let's get up, let's do it. You got to do what you got to do. And there's other days where things get in the way, but I'm doing a minimum every single day. I think that's really something that more people can take advantage of, that they don't realize how difficult it is, but also how easy it is to really do something every single day. It's not Monday through Friday. It's not, every day but Sunday, or just, occasionally when you want to. It's literally every single day. Now, of course, I have other things that I get to work on and other things that I want to get better at. But at the same time, I think that's something that sets me apart, because there are so few people who have a list of things that every single day they actually do. And for me, I think that list is about 7 long. I do them every single day, and I haven't missed a day in, as I said, over 2 years at this point.
Nice, absolutely. And just as we kind of talked about with, these athletes, our athletes, so to speak, these people that are consistently doing what they do to be excellent. I always find like there's such a strong kind of parallel between being a great athlete, being a great business person, podcaster, whatever that might be. And a lot of times when you really peel back the onion, it comes down to that consistent action on a regular basis that a lot of people don't do. So definitely appreciate you for reminding us of that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this might be what you spoke to. It might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what do you feel makes you more effective and efficient?
Yeah, so with those that list of things that I get to do every day, as I said, get to do every day, I made sure it was difficult for me in the beginning to make sure that I was doing it every day. So I spoke with a friend of mine, Rob Cressy. He's incredible. If you haven't had him on the show, highly suggest it. I'll make an introduction if needed.
Please do.
He told me, he's like, all right, what you have to do is you have to find a community of people that are as dedicated as you are. And it was a little difficult. You know, some of my friends are like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, that sounds kind of annoying, whatever. So it was just like, hey, every single day you have to text me in an emoji form all the things that you did that day, and it has to be the same thing. Sometimes you can add new ones, sometimes you can take away old ones if you don't feel it's as effective, but every single day you have to text me the day and all those emojis, so you know it's day 375, it's day 456, whatever that ends up being. And for me, still personally, it didn't work that well. So he's like, all right, you have to take it a step further then. So what I did was I went and I found a friend of mine. I said, hey, we're going to do this thing. It's our accountability test. What we're going to do is every single day, both of us have to do whatever we say and whatever we set out to do. He's a good friend of mine. He's Luke. He's in my wedding party coming up in a couple months here. And I said, hey, dude, well, we both have to do it. And to add that extra layer of accountability is if either of us misses, we're both starting over from zero.
Mm.
So right now, I think we're only on like day 56 as of recording because one of us missed something, 57 days ago or whatever. But when one of us misses, the other person gets to add something to what they have to do every single day. So it's not just the accountability of knowing like him and I are connected in this journey. It's also I do some mean stuff to him, man. If he misses, we've thrown some ideas back and forth, and it's like, all right, the first time we miss, I'm not going to add something too crazy, but if it's the fourth or the fifth time, man, you might be running a mile every single day minimum. On top of everything else that you have to do. I don't care about time. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care about anything. Because if you miss again, I get to add something else on top of it. So it's adding that accountability factor of someone else who wants to improve themselves as well. But it's also adding a little bit of fun, a little gamification to it, saying like, hey man, if you miss, like I can make you do 30 chin-ups, before 10 o'clock in the morning. You better not miss.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And I love the gamification as you kind of spoke to as well, too. It kind of took me back to whenever I used to play basketball in middle school and high school. And I remember whenever report cards came out, it wasn't just one of us that got punished. All of us had to run the suicides and all of those things. And what that did is it helped to make sure that we were accountable. If you were in a class with somebody else that wasn't performing as well as they should be, you remember those kind of suicides we all had to do and running back and forth. And that kind of put that accountability into place. And it made sure that you're able to kind of again take things to another level. So I absolutely love that hack. And so now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be like a word of wisdom or piece of advice. It might be something you would tell yourself, or if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
The I have to versus I get to. That and be grateful every single day. I have on my watch. I have two notifications that go off that say thank you. On my phone, I have 3 alarms that say thank you. The first of which is the alarm I wake up to. That's just labeled thank you. It's just being grateful, man. I sincerely appreciate every single day. I think it's awesome. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the world now, and really just forever. There's always been a lot of crap going on. So just understanding that it's a good day to be alive. I'd rather be alive than not alive. So, every single day is a good day to be alive, and really understanding. And I try and do it with my friends. I try and do it with my fiance. Anytime someone says, oh, I have to do this, it's no, you get to do this. You really do. And if you have that mindset personally, that's helped me significantly deal with stress, deal with anxiety, and, really just understanding that I get to do this, right? Like there's so many people that hate every single day of their life. But if you just said, I get to versus I have to, you get that gratefulness into your life, and gratitude, I think, is a huge piece that many people are missing. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my future wife. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful to be here with you today. And not everybody gets that opportunity. So why not be happy that I get that opportunity and thank you for it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful. And I think so many times we forget that gratitude is kind of like a muscle. And a lot of times if you continue to flex it out and do that, not only, do you see that in that current situation, but you start to begin to see that in other situations. So when bad things happen, so to speak, they always will happen. There's a lot of crap going on in the world and will continue to always happen. But if you're able to look at it in a different perspective, it doesn't necessarily change the actual what's happening, but it changed your perspective on it. And a lot of times I'll even tell myself sometimes things don't happen to me, they happen for me. And a
Hmm.
lot of times when you continue to tell yourself that, you continue to see things, even those roadblocks that happen are for you in order for you to take it to the next level or whatever might be good that comes out of it.
100%. I completely agree. That another one. Don't watch the news. That's an easy
Yes.
one though for me. Tim Ferriss taught me that a few years ago, and I was like, you
Yes.
know what? That's a good thing. I never need to. So obviously, stay up to date on necessary current events, but do your best not to watch that stuff. TV's poison. Try not to watch too much of it. So that's an easy one though. No, I totally agree with you, man. Being grateful and understanding that things happen for you, or even one step further, they happen through you. Something
Mm-hmm.
happens to you, then you can take that information and give it to others. That way, you had it, you gave it away. Now everybody around you has it, so you can improve everyone else around you, which I think is really important. And just do your best to be a good person, man. I don't think it's really hard to be a good person. It's kind of weird why people struggle with it sometimes. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just blessed in that way. But it is what it is, man. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a great perspective to have, and you start to see the world in a different way if you haven't already been doing that. Again, it starts to create that energy that brings things back tenfold, in my opinion. So now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Michael, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Whatever needs to get done, you get it done, man.
Mhm.
Obviously working with brands, working with other companies, and seeing what they do, and working, especially in the smaller companies. Obviously, haven't talked to the CEO of Procter & Gamble or Johnson and Johnson yet, but I'm sure it's coming. And it's really just understanding, what needs to get done and how do we get it done. Whether that's delegating, whether that's doing it yourself, and it's really just putting your pedal to the metal. I mean, it's funny. I have my laptop in front of me at all times, pretty much, and my girlfriend and fiance, whatever we want to call her, my family, they're like, "Why do you still have that?" It's like, well, I still need things to do. Just because I'm not doing something doesn't mean just because it's a weekend doesn't mean there's stuff to do, right? I truly do believe all 24 hours in the day, they're all created equal. It doesn't matter when you're doing something or how you're doing it. All that time is created equal. So if you want to take time off, that's great, but you're going to have to make it up somewhere else. So, I mean, Monday through Thursday are jam packed for me. It's more fun that way and getting everything out. Yeah, on Saturdays and Sundays, I like to hang out with my family and my friends, of course, but all hours are equal. So it doesn't matter if it's 6 in the morning or if it's 6 o'clock at night. That time wasn't created in 9 to 5 chunks. Time is created all equal, and we have to utilize it when we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And being aware of that, especially as it being one of the most precious resources that you have, how you're going to leverage it in alignment with the vision that you have and what you hope to see is so important. And I think it's definitely a great reminder. And, as a quote unquote CEO, business owner, entrepreneur, whatever we might call it, it's so important to be cognizant of how we're spending those times, where we're putting those chunks and investing it into what we hope to see in the future. And I think when we do that, then we start to see the fruits of our labor.
Couldn't agree more, man. Could not agree more.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, Michael, truly appreciate that definition. I appreciate your time even more. And what I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know. And of course, how best they can get hold of you, subscribe to the podcast, and hear about all the awesome things you're working on.
Yeah, check out the podcast, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts. It's everywhere, For the Love of Sports. I've actually taken the Our Athletes podcast and pretty much just plopped it into the For the Love of Sports podcast. That's why I don't have to do multiple. I can have athletes on and talk to them all the time. I've had it, and it's worked out pretty well. So yeah, For the Love of Sports, wherever you listen to your shows. Also on YouTube, Michael Raziel, For the Love of Sports as well. We have some pretty cool interviews up there. So I do all the interviews live on LinkedIn, so you can get me there, Michael Raziel again, and on Twitter, Michael Raziel1. But Twitter is a terrible place. I try not to spend too much time there. It's the greatest and the worst place all combined into one. So I try not to spend too much time there, but you can find me there as well. And yeah, man, I mean, just be a good person, do what you can, and understand that, like, as I said, time is not created equal, or time is created equal. So that 9 to 5 mindset, if you're coming out of the corporate world and into the entrepreneurial space, or if you're in the entrepreneurial space, maybe even find some time for yourself as well. I think that's important, but talk to people, man, especially now where we're not really allowed outside. We're not really allowed to go to events. I used to go to them all the time. That was my favorite thing. I would go network, and I get the energy from it. And I haven't done that in months, being here right so close to New York City. I can't take advantage of it, unfortunately, but talk to people, ask questions. I'm a big believer in karma. So find ways to get karma on your side, and I'm sure very good things will happen to you.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate that, Michael. We will have the links and information in the show notes just to make it easier for people to follow you and connect with you. And I love everything you stand for, everything that you're doing as well too. And I appreciate, all the good energy that you put out on this podcast and in the world as a whole. And I think it's a great reminder for us to kind of be what we hope to see in the world. And if you want to see good, then be good. If you want to see greatness, then be great. And it's definitely something we all should carry with us all the time. So I appreciate that, my friend. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, and I'll cut it off here. Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh again from the I Am CEO podcast, and we had a phenomenal interview with Michael Rizil of Our Athletes, and he's doing so many phenomenal things. I'm a big sports junkie myself, so really getting to hear and have him on the show and talk about some of these awesome things that he's doing has been truly phenomenal episode you want to check out. So, Michael, for people that might just be listening to this, could you take us through a little bit more about Our Athletes and what exactly you're doing with your podcast and your organization?
Yeah, 100%. Appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much. And so I help Olympic athletes and hopefuls with sponsorships and endorsement opportunities. About 80 to 90% of our Olympic athletes live below the poverty line when it comes to annual income. So what I like to do is aggregate this talent and give the opportunity to connect with our country, to connect with these specific sports and these demographics, to allow them a very deep connection to something rather than just kind of, spraying and praying in those opportunities. And in terms of the podcast, I've been podcasting for 2.5, 3 years at this point, done over almost 400. It's my favorite thing I get to do. So I do have the For the Love of Sports podcast where I interview athletes, entrepreneurs, and really anyone in the sports industry on how they broke into the industry, what they do on a daily basis to take it to the top, and how you can learn from what they have done. I'm also actually forgot to mention this before, but I'm going to be a published author in December. I have my book coming out, so very excited for that one. So hopefully everyone out there is excited too, because I get to take all those really cool interviews I did, pop them into writing form, and hopefully people can learn some lessons from it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be married as well too, right?
Yes, getting married in September. Actually, I think as of this release, we should already be married. So
there you go, fingers crossed. Definitely, it's definitely been a busy year for you. So it's great to hear that you're doing so many phenomenal things. So I know, like during the episode, we kind of talked about how a lot of times brands and organizations want to connect with those, those influencers, the NBA stars and things like that. Could you talk a little bit more about that kind of like niche and micro influencer level that you're kind of talked about for those that may not be familiar about what exactly that is and how it manifests itself in what you do?
Yeah, so many of these athletes really get their 2 weeks of fame once every 4 years, and it's pretty unfortunate. And so what I wanted to do, they still have audiences though, right? Within each of their sport, whether that's swimming, and they're not Michael Phelps or Katie Ledecky, two of the most decorated athletes of human history. There's a lot of other athletes that are in swimming that are absolutely incredible too. It just turns out they're not the greatest athletes to ever exist, right? So that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just they're not they're not the greatest. So they still have audiences. All of these sports still have audiences. They come from great colleges in many situations. They come from hometowns. They come from states that have populations, and everybody has that story, right? It's like, oh, I went to high school with that girl, and now she's in the Olympics. How cool is that? So everybody kind of has that story, and we're all connected in some way, shape, or form. So what I like to do is take, as you said, these micro influencers. Maybe they have 5, maybe they have 10, maybe they have 20,000 followers across their social medias. Aggregate them together with a couple of other athletes that have that same 5, 10, 15, 20,000 followers across social media, and be able to put them together the way brands like, whether they're looking for female athletes from the Northeast or just female athletes in general. Maybe they're looking for swimmers. Maybe they're looking for, diverse athletes from all these different ethnic backgrounds and places and across the country, inner cities, whatever it is. I have those relationships. If I don't have them, I have enough relationships that I can find them. So what I like to do is really just go and find these athletes for the brands, whatever the brand is looking for, and allow them to connect with these athletes and then connect with those athletes' audiences in a super authentic way, because they're coming through from a very general, like a very loving, positive energy type of place. And these athletes don't get paid as much, unfortunately. So the running rate for 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 of them, it's not going to be the same as if you're going to an NFL, not even star, just someone on the New York Giants, someone on the New York Jets or the New England Patriots. They're not going to command as many dollars. So you're able to help these athletes who don't make that much money. You're able to connect with their audiences who are, while maybe smaller, they're more in tune and they're more appreciative of these athletes, especially because there's 5 athletes with 10,000. It's not one athlete with 50,000. So you're able to dive deeper into these audiences, and then you're able to really connect with them more, which I think is really important. So it's kind of a little bit of a hack, as we were talking about before, and getting in these audiences and really getting the audiences to understand the brand, how they help the athlete, and really tell those stories of what these athletes go through on a daily basis, especially when the camera's not on, and it's really only on once every 4 years for about 2 weeks, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we kind of talked about during the podcast, is that a lot of times you don't see the build up to that. But I'm glad you kind of touched on, little things, not little things, they're huge things. Because as you said, like I went to school with his name, Deion Butler. Deion Butler ended up playing for the Seattle Seahawks, and he went to Penn State. And those are the things and those stories that you kind of speak to. Because if I know somebody that went to Penn State, I'm like, oh, do you know Deion Butler? And then all of a sudden you have that connection. And I think so many times that you spoke to that story aspect. And I really think the opportunity to really drill down and say, hey, this is a hometown hero. This is someone that went to my college or my high school or middle, whatever it might be, allows that opportunity for connection. So I love that you're facilitating that opportunity for these brands and these organizations to help out these, phenomenal athletes connect with these individuals.
100%, man. It's so much fun. And again, as I said in the episode, unfortunately not making a millions of dollars yet. Hopefully I can one day, but hopefully I will one day. But right now it's year changing money. If we can put any money in their pocket, again, do a quick Google search, you'll find out how few dollars these athletes make. And it's a full-time job, right? Training for the Olympics, training to be one of the greatest athletes of all time is a full-time job. And unfortunately, they don't make that much, especially, I worked with the rowing team. I've worked with swimmers. I've worked with fencers. It's just unfortunate. So hopefully if there's anything I can do to put a couple extra bucks in their pocket, make the lives just a little bit easier, normally they perform better. And I can, not take credit for, of course, but I can think I had a little bit of a hand in what they did at the game. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We almost don't always think about the sacrifice that they take to become those great athletes and those things. And I didn't even know that until you brought it up, during the interview as well as just now about, how much they potentially don't make and that opportunity that you're providing through there. So at the heart of it, I've always felt entrepreneurship is about, seeing problems and creating solutions for problems. So you definitely been able to kind of do that. It's great to hear that you're able to do that at so many different levels.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Awesome. So for people that might just be listening to this aspect, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you, subscribe to your podcast, and hear about all the awesome things that you're doing?
Yeah, so follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn, Michael Rasile, RAS as in Sam, ILE. That is my most engaged, my most active of the social media platforms. Hang out there. You'll see I'll post up a lot of stuff about the podcast, but if you're interested for the love of sports on Apple, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google, really wherever you can get it, on Anchor specifically, you can find the show. There's about 100 and as of this recording, there's about 180. So I assume there'll probably be another 20 by the time this episode comes out. So should be fun. It's my favorite thing I get to do. I'm always looking for critiques, but follow me on LinkedIn, hang out with me there, follow the podcast, see what you can do there. You can follow me on Twitter, but as I said before, it's a terrible place. So I try not to spend too much time there, but it's all good stuff, man. So thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we'll have the links and information in the show notes so that everybody can follow up with you. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We talked about having the low information diet, and one of the worst places to try to do that is on Twitter. So you want to stay clear and make sure you're putting in good information at all times. So definitely appreciate you again, Michael. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.